Hey Delulus, let's talk about Legally Blonde, not just as a movie, but as a cultural movement that redefined what feminist empowerment can look like. When Legally Blonde premiered in 2001, it seemed just like another early 2000s chick flick, but not to me. I was like 11 when I watched this movie for the first time, and something about it just seemed so special. But buried beneath the sparkle was something defiant, a reclamation of femininity as a valid, even strategic form of power. And looking back at the films I watched when I was younger, this had to be the earliest introduction to feminism, and I'm not mad at it. Chapter 1, Elle Woods and the Performance of Femininity. At first glance, Elle fits the archetype of the quote-unquote dumb blonde, beautiful, bubbly, and fashion-obsessed. But here's the subversion. She knows that's how the world sees her, and she uses it. There's something deeply feminist about refusing to change who you are to be accepted.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, I'm Elle Woods, and this is Bruiser Woods, and we're both Gemini vegetarians. I have a bachelor's degree in fashion merchandising from CULA, and I was a Zeta Lambda Nu sweetheart, president of my sorority, Delta Nu, and last year I was homecoming queen. Oh, 2 weeks ago, I saw Cameron Diaz at Fred Segal, and I talked her out of buying this truly heinous Angora sweater. Whoever said orange was the new pink was seriously disturbed.
Huh?
Elle doesn't cut her hair, ditch her clothes, or tone it down to succeed at Harvard. She walks into the institution with her full self, manicured nails and all, and demands that it expands to make space for her. In this way, Legally Blonde is in conversation with theorists like Judith Butler, who argued that gender is a performance. Elle is hyper-aware of how people perceive her, and rather than bending to the masculine-coded norms of power, she rewrites the script in her favor. Being feminine is not a flaw. It's her superpower. Chapter 2. Harvard as a Patriarchal Battlefield. Let's be honest. Harvard Law in Legally Blonde isn't just a school, it's a microcosm of the systems that devalue women, especially hyper-feminine, conventionally attractive ones. Elle doesn't just have to prove she's smart, she has to prove she deserves to take up space. The dean doubts her.
Harvard Law School?
That's right.
But that's a top 3 school.
Oh, I have a 4.0.
Yes. But your major is fashion merchandising. Harvard won't be impressed that you aced history of polka dots.
Warner mocks her.
No, silly. I go here.
You go where?
Harvard. Law school.
You got into Harvard Law?
What, like it's hard?
Professor Callahan literally preys on her.
It's about ferocity, carnage, balancing human intelligence with animal diligence. Mm-hmm. Knowing exactly what you want and how far you'll go to get it. How far will Elle go?
Are you hitting on me?
You're a beautiful girl.
So everything you just said?
I'm a man who knows what he wants.
And I'm a law student who just realized her professor is a pathetic asshole.
And yet, she persists. In a world that demands women harden themselves to be taken seriously, Elle refuses to give up her softness. She challenges the idea that intelligence and femininity are mutually exclusive, and in doing so, makes room for other women to do the same. Chapter 3. A Feminist Outlier in a Sexist Era. Let's not forget the era Legally Blonde came out in, the early 2000s, when mainstream cinema was obsessed with the quote-unquote hot girl archetype, but rarely gave her any depth. In the same year Legally Blonde premiered, in 2021, we had films like American Pie 2, Not Another Teen Movie, and Tomcats dominating box offices. In these films, women were often hypersexualized, objectified, or simply there to support a male protagonist's coming of age. Their bodies were plot points, their minds rarely explored. In Not Another Teen Movie, for example, the joke is literally about turning a nerdy girl hot by taking off her glasses. The film mocks She's All That, which follows the tired stereotypes. It's funny until you realize how many girls grew up thinking that their worth started and ended with how they looked to others. And then along comes Elle. She's stunning, yes, but the camera never reduces her to body parts. She's not filmed for the male gaze. She is filmed through the lens of aspiration, not objectification. Elle isn't sexy for someone else, she's sexy for herself. And that in itself is radical. As Bell Hooks said, quote, "The moment we choose to love, we begin to move toward freedom, to act in ways that liberate ourselves and others," end quote. Elle chooses to love herself, without apology. While the culture was busy teaching young girls to shrink, Legally Blonde said, "Be bigger, take up space." It stood alone as a bright pink rebellion in a sea of shallow male fantasies, and it gave a generation of girls permission to be the heroine of their own story. Chapter 4: Female Friendships and Radical Sisterhood. Here's something quite revolutionary. Elle's biggest emotional growth comes not from romantic relationships, but from female friendships. She begins the film surrounded by her sorority sisters, who, contrary to stereotypes, are supportive, loyal, and deeply invested in her success. They embrace her, they cry, they scream when she succeeds in her LSATs. And later, it's Paulette, not Warren, who provides the emotional anchor. Even Vivian, initially set up as her foil, becomes an ally. Instead of leaning into the tired catfight trope, the film allows these two women to grow past jealousy and toward mutual respect. This is feminist cinema. This is healing. Writer and cultural critic Roxane Gay once said, "Feminism is about the recognition that women's lives are layered, complicated, and worthy of narrative." That's what Legally Blonde does. It shows us women navigating law school, career choices, trauma, and heartbreak, all while showing up for each other. Chapter 5: The Intextualization of Girly. One of the most subversive aspects of the film, how it intextualizes the feminine. From the bend and snap to her knowledge in hair care and fashion, Ellie's quote-unquote girly skills repeatedly become legal tools. Take the courtroom scene. Elle wins the case because she understands perm maintenance. What others see as shallow, she uses as evidence. This flips centuries of Western philosophical tradition where the mind has been privileged over the body and masculine-coded intellect over feminine-coded intuition. Ellie says, "I'm both." As academic Jennifer Posner once wrote, quote, "When a woman uses what she knows, especially knowledge rooted in her femininity, and is ridiculed for it, we should ask, who benefits from that ridicule?" End quote. Elle's knowledge isn't just valid, it's vital. Chapter 6: The Blind Spots Beneath the Pink. While Legally Blonde remains a deeply influential and empowerment feminist film, it's also important to look at what's missing. And in this case, it's the representation of people of color. The world of Harvard law and Elle's LA roots are portrayed almost entirely through a white lens, which reflects a broader pattern in the early 2000s cinema. White, blonde, upper-class femininity has often centered as the default. In an era where mainstream media was still struggling to embrace intersectionality, Legally Blonde offered girl power, but a very particular version of that. Black, Latina, Asian, Indigenous, and other non-white women are vertically absent or reduced to background roles, as cultural critic Angela Jade Bastine observed in her 2017 article for Vulture, quote, White women exulated to this degree in Southern narratives is predicated on the onshore of blackness, end quote. This absence doesn't negate the film's impact, but it does limit who gets to see themselves in Elle's world. It's worth noting that many films of this era, like Mean Girls or Clueless, fell into similar traps, glamorizing a kind of femininity that was stylish, witty, ambiguous, but almost exclusively white. While Elle Woods challenges stereotypes about intelligence and femininity, she never has to navigate racism or cultural alienation on her journey, which makes her success story feel more accessible to some and more distant to others. In recent years, there's been a call, especially from Gen Z audiences, for feminism in film to better reflect all women's experiences, not just those of white women. Legally Blonde is still a milestone in pop feminist storytelling, but part of loving something is being able to hold it accountable. Imagine how much richer the narrative could have been with a truly diverse sisterhood supporting Elle, with friends and mentors from all kinds of backgrounds. In that sense, this film becomes not only a feminist artifact of the early 2000s, but also a reminder of how far we still have to go. Chapter 7: The Rebirth of Legally Blonde. By the 2010s, the film found new life through feminist film criticism and online platforms like Tumblr and TikTok. Academic journals began to cite it as a post-feminist text, one that explored individual empowerment, gender performance, and the reclamation of femininity. Feminist scrollers highlighted its portrayal of female solidarity and friendships, and critics also pointed out how it quietly rejected toxic masculinity and, quote, not like other girls, end quote, tropes. The film also had a sequel that did relatively well, although not as good as the first one, and in 2007, Legally Blonde the musical duetted on Broadway, which ran for over 595 shows, which is really impressive. More than 20 years later, Elle isn't just relevant, she's timeless, and she didn't need to change who she is to change the landscape. And that's what makes Legally Blonde a wonderful feminist film.
Playing Elle Woods was just the highlight of my career, my early career for sure. She was such a funny character, she was such an underdog, and just trying to find those pieces of her that was really vulnerable, that feeling that people underestimate you and think you can't do things, which is a feeling that so many people feel in this world. And I had no idea when we were making it that it was gonna touch so many people's hearts. And the thing I really love about Elle Woods is I share that performance with so many young people because of the stage play. So many people have played Elle Woods. So I feel like I'll have all these cool people come up to me and be like, I played Elle Woods. And I'm like, I played Elle Woods. We're both Elle Woods. So it's something that I really share with a lot of people.
Thank you so much for making it this far. I really loved making this video because I just really love this movie. I've been on a deep dive of films I watched as a young girl, and this one is definitely up there. It's interesting how, now that I'm much older, that I can notice things that I didn't in retrospect, especially the lack of people of color in film. But the wonderful thing about the past is learning from it, and I could already see the changes being made in films that center women, and especially women of color. The next video that I'm going to be making is actually going to be with my sisters, and it's going to be a little different, and I can't wait for you guys to tune into that one. So thank you again, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
But if I'm going to be a partner in a law firm by the time I'm 30, I need a boyfriend who's not such a complete bonehead.